Well, starting now.
This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening and welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are so excited to have you join us for this third webinar in a three-part series. We will start in a few moments. In the meantime, you should see a question on the screen when it comes up, and we want you to take a few minutes to think about the answer and place your thoughts in the chat. During the presentation, the speakers will address the answer. Welcome to 3 days of connection and care, where we focus on chronic kidney disease awareness, resources, and education. This is day 3 of our webinar series on chronic kidney disease, faith, and health. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. Also, we will make it available to everyone who would like to view it again at a later date. So if you miss something, you'll have another opportunity to hear it at your leisure. Oh, goodness. This event is hosted by the Nashville, Tennessee chapter of the Links Incorporated in production. My computer is going on its own. I apologize. It is, oh my, okay. The Nashville, Tennessee chapter of the Links Incorporated, and is produced in collaboration with the Music City, Tennessee and Parthenon chapters of the Links Incorporated. The Black K.A.R.E program is sponsored by a grant from Baxter International and the central area of the Links Incorporated. We are joined in our Black K.A.R.E educational outreach efforts through a unique partnership with the Metropolitan Interdenominational Church, the Metropolitan Interdenominational Church First Response Center, St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church, and the Meharry Salt Wagon Clinic. We look forward to future in-person events with our partners and the community they serve. My name is Dr. Kimberly Weich Etheridge. I am faculty at Meharry Medical School and a physician with the Meharry Medical Group. I am also the Health and Human Services Facet Chair for the Music City, Tennessee chapter of the Links Incorporated. Every day, my focus is on improving the health and well-being of communities of color. Every opportunity that we have to speak to the community about chronic kidney disease prevention and wellness is important because it empowers you to demand more from the healthcare system. For so many of us, our faith is what we bring to the doctor, what we bring home, and what we carry every day. So it is important to talk to our faith leaders about how we can use our faith to support our health and wellness journey. During the first session, we talked about chronic kidney disease, wellness, and healthy goal setting. Last week, we gave you a general overview of chronic kidney disease disparities, nutrition, and exercise. We hope that the session motivated you to get just a little more exercise, watch your salt intake, and to eat more fruits and vegetables. Tonight, for our discussion on faith and health, we will begin with Dr. Marquetta Faulkner, who will answer a few questions raised about chronic kidney disease from our prior sessions. And we will give you a personal testimony about how she has seen faith and health work for the good of her patients. We will then have the opportunity to hear from LB Gaiters, a beloved parishioner at St. Vincent de Paul, and one of our co-moderators for the series. After that, we'll hear from Deacon Harry Guest from St. Vincent de Paul, and last but never least, from Reverend Edwin Sanders. Just a couple of housekeeping. If you have any questions for our speakers, use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. During the course of the hour, you can enter comments in the chat. Stay tuned for information about our Kroger gift card giveaway. Everyone who completes at least 2 sessions will be entered into a drawing to win a $30 gift card. And those who complete all 3 sessions will be eligible for either a $30 or a $50 gift card. We will have more information about this at the end of the session. To find out more information about Black K.A.R.E and chronic kidney disease, please scan the QR code on the screen or use the link entered into that chat. Always seek the advice of your physician or your primary care doctor or other qualified health provider with any questions or concerns that you may have regarding your health. The link for the website is in the chat. If you're looking for opportunities for chronic kidney disease screenings, we have one for you that is free. That's right, free. Join us at St. Vincent de Paul on Saturday, March 25th from 10 to 12 p.m. for chronic kidney disease screening, education, gift cards, and of course, some healthy snacks. We will begin tonight by introducing the president of the Music City, Tennessee chapter of the Links Incorporated, Dr. Kenya Newby, who will say a few words of welcome and introduce our first guest. Dr. Newby is currently a school counselor for Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools, in which she works with hundreds of students every year to instill qualities of self-esteem, grace, and tenacity. As a licensed psychologist and counselor, she also works to mentor future school counselors and as an adjunct professor to train the next generation of successful school counselor practitioners. Community service is an extremely important part of her life. She's a member of several organizations that work to improve the community, including, but not limited to, Top Ladies of Distinction, the Links Incorporated, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc., and a consortium of doctors. Dr. Newby has been named a Tennessee Counseling Association Emerging Young Leader. She was a participant in the Links Incorporated Scott Hawkins Leadership Program, a member of the National Association of School Psychologists, the Tennessee Association of Psychologists, and the Psi Chi Psychology Honor Society. Welcome, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. It is indeed a pleasure to welcome everyone to the third and final installment of our Black K.A.R.E chronic kidney disease webinar series. The Music City, Tennessee chapter of the Links Incorporated has focused on enhancing our community in the areas of education, civic, and intercultural activities for over 40 years. We work to sustain the quality of life for women, children, and families within the Nashville area. Some of the more notable programs that the chapter focuses on are Link to Excellence, Teens to Queens, and Restore the Vote. We are certainly the beneficiaries of extraordinary women who understood the importance of blending friendship and volunteerism to bring significant change to the community and throughout the world. Tonight, I am excited to present our first speaker who will answer a few of your burning questions about chronic kidney disease and offer a unique perspective about faith and health. Please help me welcome back Dr. Marquetta Faulkner. If you live in the Nashville area and know anything about Meharry, you may be familiar with Dr. Faulkner, or you may know someone that knows her. We are so blessed to have her as a speaker. What I will say is that if you have kidney issues and need to see a specialist, she is definitely the person that you may be referred to. It can take weeks or months to get in to see a kidney disease specialist, and we have one here tonight. Dr. Marquetta Faulkner is a tenured professor of medicine and currently serves as the chief of the Division of Nephrology at Meharry Medical College and Nashville General Hospital. She has served in the capacity as Dean of the School of Medicine and Senior Vice President of Health Affairs, the Associate Dean of Graduate Medical Education, and designated institutional officer at Meharry Medical College in the School of Medicine. She's also served as the interim chair and the vice chairman for the Department of Internal Medicine, and as assistant chief of service at Metropolitan Nashville General Hospital at Meharry. Dr. Faulkner serves in various administrative capacities at Meharry Medical College today and is the medical director for the Meharry Dialysis Clinic unit. Dr. Faulkner is a graduate of Meharry Medical College. She completed an internship and a residency in internal medicine at Meharry. She is a board certified nephrologist, having completed a fellowship in nephrology at Long Island Jewish Medical Center in New High, New York. She continued her graduate education by attending the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, where she obtained a physician's executive master's of business administration. Dr. Faulkner furthered her leadership skills by completing the executive leadership in academic medicine. We thank you, Dr. Faulkner, for sharing your time and expertise with us.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. Newby, and thanks to all of the Nashville Area Link chapters. It is truly a pleasure to be here and to give you a talk on faith and health. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Let's look at an overview of chronic kidney disease. Diabetes mellitus and hypertension are the major causes of chronic kidney disease. African Americans are affected more than any other race. If it is caught early and treated, there's a very good chance that you can prevent the need for dialysis. It can only be detected early from blood and urine tests because there are no signs and symptoms until very late. Once the kidney fails, there are only two forms of treatment: dialysis, which can be peritoneal or hemodialysis, or a kidney transplant. Next slide, please. Exactly what is chronic kidney disease? It is any abnormality of the kidney that is present for 3 months or more. It can be protein loss in the urine, or blood loss in the urine, or an abnormal kidney X-ray. It could be a loss of kidney function, known as a decrease in glomerular filtration rate, in which waste products build up in the blood. Next slide, please. Here are the stages of chronic kidney disease. Stage 1, if you're diagnosed with stage 1, that means 90% of your kidney is functioning or better. If you're diagnosed with stage 2 kidney disease, 60 to 89% of the kidney is functioning. If you're diagnosed with stage 3, 30 to 59% of the kidney is functioning. And of those stages, you have no signs and symptoms, but the kidney can slowly deteriorate or decline and go into stage 4. Stage 4 is 15 to 29% of kidney disease. And at that stage, you want to see if you can prevent the kidney from getting any worse, because if it gets worse, it goes to stage 5, and stage 5 is less than 15%. At that point, you will need dialysis. Next slide, please. Who is referred to the kidney specialist or nephrologist? Usually patients are referred to me as a nephrologist who are in stage 3 chronic kidney disease, but they can be referred at any stage from stage 3 through 5 when they are detected as having chronic kidney disease. The 3 categories of patients are moderate kidney disease patients, and that's stage 3, where when you come to see the doctor, they say, okay, you have moderate kidney disease. And remember, that's kidney functioning. The kidney functioning in that stage is 30 to 59%. You can be referred at severe kidney disease, and remember, that's stage 4, where the kidney function is 15 to 29%. Or you can be referred at end stage, where it's too late to do anything, and at that stage is less than 15%, and you will need dialysis. Next slide, please. What is the patient's response to the diagnosis of chronic kidney disease? When patients are referred, and depending on what stage of kidney disease they're in, they can easily fall into one of the stages of grief. The stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, or acceptance. Next slide, please. Patients' faith and my experience. When patients are referred in stage 3, patients feel hopeful that their kidney function will not get worse, and they pray for healing. If they're religious or not, they still seem to accept the diagnosis of chronic kidney disease stage 3. When they're referred as stage 4, if they're religious, there's acceptance of chronic kidney disease, but they still try and pray it away. That's what they will usually say. Oh, doctor, I know I have it, but I have faith in God that it will go away. If they're not religious, usually I will see patients in denial. They will say, I don't have bad kidney disease, or bargaining. Okay, I have bad kidney disease, but if I stop doing XXX, whatever they think is the cause, I will not need dialysis. Or they will be in a stage of anger. Okay, I have bad kidneys, but I am not going to dialyze. Next slide, please. When they're referred as stage 5, I can see any one of the stages of grief. Let's take a look at denial. Patients will refuse to dialyze and say, there's nothing wrong with my kidneys, and they will not want to start dialysis if they're in stage 5. Some of them will actually say, I'd rather die. Or they can be in a stage of anger, and patients will start speaking harshly to the doctor and staff. and just really fussing. Whatever comes across their mind, they'll just say it and blurt it out. Or they can be in the bargaining stage and say, I'm just going to dialyze for a little while until my kidneys get better, and then I will come off. Or they can be depressed. The patients will accept dialysis but start missing treatments. And then we'll know that they're not accepting dialysis as they initially said they were. Or they can be in the acceptance stage of grief. The patient will be compliant, come to dialysis, and take their medications as prescribed. Next slide, please. How do patients benefit from spirituality? Acceptance of the diagnosis of chronic kidney disease, appears to be easier if the patient is spiritually connected. The patients are more compliant with dialysis treatments. They appear to have less depression, and depression is a big diagnosis amongst chronic kidney disease, especially when they get to stage 4 and 5, particularly stage 5. There's a lot of depression, and they even have depression scales that we do for all patients to see if we have missed it and not been able to pick it up during the time that they're getting their treatments. Those patients who accept the diagnosis also have a higher perception of a better quality of life, and they seem to do better when they're spiritually connected. Next slide, please. So, our icebreaker. Can chronic kidney disease be reversed? No, it cannot. When the kidney is damaged, it's damaged permanently. It's sclerosed, it's hardened. You cannot reverse it. That's why we try extremely hard to prevent you from going from one stage to the next, or see if we can halt the progression altogether. Next slide. So this is the end of my part of the presentation. So please place any questions that you have for me in the Q&A box, and I will answer those questions as we continue on. And the takeaway from this session is that faith can have a positive impact on patients dealing with the psychological effects of chronic kidney disease, especially in the late stages. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Faulkner. And as a reminder, please don't leave with your questions unanswered. Add your questions to the Q&A box, and we'll be sure to either get them answered directly or electronically as we go along. To motivate you towards your health goals, the first 10 community members who logged into the webinar will receive a Black K.A.R.E cookbook. Please check your email for the offer in the coming weeks. We will now have the pleasure of hearing from L.B. Gaiters, who is a parishioner at St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church. She will proudly tell you that she is not a deacon or a priest or a reverend, but she has learned a lot about the power of faith in her own life. We are grateful that she is willing to share her testimony with us. Before she starts, I will take the liberty of briefly sharing her background. Lauren L.B. Gaiters is a retired professor of criminal justice. After 45 years of teaching and mentoring at Tennessee State University, she has continued a 32-year-long second career as a professional award-winning voiceover artist, lending her talent to hundreds of political commercials, airport announcements, restaurant advertisements. She can be heard all over the South States and parts of Canada. Professor Gaiters has been dedicated to St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church for over 50 years. She serves as a lector, choir member, parish council representative. She's married to Frank Gaiters Jr. for 55 plus years. She cherishes their 2 children and her 5 grandchildren. She proudly retains alumni status in Hendersonville area links after actively working for over 40 years. Thank you, LB, for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you to Meharry and all the participating links chapters for sharing this outstanding expertise with us. Yes, Kim, you're right. I'm not a deacon and I'm not a priest and I'm not a reverend. I don't even play one on TV. But my roots in living in faith and understanding its power run deep. Since I've been a Catholic, since my cradle days, meaning I was baptized early. Then I attended Catholic schools from kindergarten all the way through 9th grade. And I was under the tutelage of the Sisters of the Holy Family and Josephite priests. I learned from them to use the tools of prayer and devotion and how to depend on a faith connection that sustains me to this very day. Most recently, when I fell ill with a temperature of 101 and shaking chills lasting all over my body for half an hour, I sought the help of my doctor and I said prayers that he would be guided by the hand of God to bring me out of the turmoil that I was feeling and experiencing. For 4 days, I laid in a bed, sick, not knowing what was wrong. My doctor's diagnosis was of a kidney infection that stemmed from an untreated UTI. After completing a full regimen of antibiotics, I was able to return to relatively good health. Then along came K, K-A-R-E. And that was through an invitation from my parish friend, Dr. Charlene Dewey. She asked me to participate in these webinars. Within days of being ill from a kidney infection, just like that, I was connected to learning how to get help and keep myself healthy, and how to be connected to all the fabulous experts that we are listening to tonight. And these people are literally saving my life. I've been listening to everything they've been saying, and it's been helping me. Was it God's hand that gave me the connection? My faith tells me that, of course it was. Of course. What else would it be but the hand of God? And I realized that those things that I must do will be fostered and helped for me to live a good life. I hope that I will keep living my life far, far past the years that I've already reached. My plan is to get to the ripe old age of 116. Why 116? I don't know. That just sounds like a good number. And with the help of all the experts that are at Meharry and other places, I'll be able to get there. God willing, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, LB. And I agree, 116 sounds like a wonderful, wonderful age to get to. Thank you for sharing a part of you with us. Next, I'd like to have the opportunity to welcome Deacon Harry Guest. Deacon Harry has served at St. Vincent de Paul for the last 6 years. Prior to this, he was the Chief Financial Officer at the Veterans Village of San Diego. He received a BA in Political Science and Government from Vanderbilt, a Master's in Finance and Naval Postgraduate School, and an Executive Management degree from the University of Southern California. Welcome, Deacon Harry.
Thank you. And I am delighted to be a part of this program. And I want to thank the partners Links and Meharry for including us at St. Vincent, and allowing us to be part of a program that brings help to our community. My story of faith and healing is a little different. It began over 50 years ago when I was a freshman in college. I applied to the Navy ROTC program at Vanderbilt, and I was initially accepted pending a physical examination. And I'd been issued my uniform and started classes in naval history. But at the physical, the doctor told me something I already knew, but I never understood that this condition could get in the way of my plans and my dreams. The doctor told me that because I had flat feet, I could not be accepted in the ROTC program. And although I could physically perform the PT and marching requirements, the rules said that I might have difficulty, so the answer remained no. I was young, had lots of other things going on, so I quickly got over it. But the blue and gold seed remained in me. A few years later, after graduating, I discovered I continued to want to be a naval officer. The challenge was the process for joining the service still required passing a physical exam, and my feet were still flat. Again, the doctor told me what I already knew, that my feet were flat, but the rules for the new all-volunteer service would allow me to enter as long as I had no problems with the physical training and running and marching. I would be okay. I thought that was amazing. And off I went with my dreams. At Officer Candidate School in Rhode Island, I excelled in all areas and had only one problem. My feet hurt. They hurt so much that I was ready to drop out and return to Nashville. A friend there suggested that I go and pray. So that Sunday, I went to Mass like I always did, but I decided to stay afterwards and reflect more on the chaplain's message. That Sunday, it was about faith, having real faith and what it could mean, how it could make the difference. Faith, as we read in Hebrews, says, faith is the realization of what is hoped for and evidence of things not seen. Because of it, the ancients were well attested. By faith, we understand that the universe was ordered by the word of God, so that what is visible came into being through the invisible. The next morning, I reported to the infirmary because of my feet. They referred me to the Naval Hospital Orthopedic Department. The doctor there said what all the others had said, you have really flat feet. But unlike the others, he added, I think I can help. And that's a key word for me today. I can help. Using what today would be considered old school or ancient technology, the Navy sculpted arch supports that actually worked quite well. I finished OCS at the top of my class and continued on for a very successful 24-year career. All it took was faith, like in Hebrews 11, summarized as all things are possible with God. Having built a military career on that foundation, it's not surprising that my second career started with me working at a community health center. At the same time, I was completing formation to be ordained as a permanent deacon in the Catholic Church. One of my chaplain internships was in a large hospital. Making rounds required hours on my feet. Now, I should point out that when I was joining the Navy, those feet were 25 years old. Now they were 50-year-old retired feet. And as before, they began to hurt, sometimes really hurt. But what I learned from the patients I visited that is most important is that there's this extra element to be added to your faith, and that element is endurance. Endurance and faith complement each other and are seen clearly in any healing process. Healing, as depicted in the scriptures from Mark 5, 1 through 20, that kind of healing is extraordinary. The man possessed by the legion of demonic spirits required really extraordinary healing, kind that we only get from Jesus. Now, the healing we see in our lives each day is typically ordinary, but still miraculous. This ordinary healing requires faith. It requires endurance and the application of our advanced knowledge of science through medicine and medical treatments. God gives us all of those, so we should use all of those, not one, not either or, but both and all. The next slide, please. Many people, when confronted with sickness or disease, turn to prayer because they have faith that God will help them. What some don't recognize is how God sends that help. They only believe it's God's help when it's an instantaneous and unexplainable cure that is labeled a miracle. As Christians, we pray in the Our Father for God's will to be done. And if so, we must accept that we can't then define the limits or form of God's will. The healing miracle we pray for through our positive faith may be through many prescribed courses. It may be, as we've heard through this series of webinars, it may be abstinence from our preferred food and drinks. That's one that has really hit home for me. It may be through adherence to a fitness or exercise routine. Or it may be as simple as taking our medication as prescribed. Sometimes ordinary healing requires an extra hand or two, like the hand of a skilled surgeon supported by a team of healthcare professionals. While all these actions happen every day, they are no less miraculous than healing we see in Scripture. And so, as I end, I would ask that each of us prays for the miracle we may need, and that we all recognize God's will in the ordinary ways and in the faith-filled people He answers our prayers through. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Thank you, Deacon Harry, for sharing your testimony with us and for giving those of us with flat feet hope for healing. Or so. It is now my pleasure to introduce Reverend Edwin Sanders. Edwin Sanders is the senior servant founder of Metropolitan Interdenominational Church since 1981 in Nashville, Tennessee. Through the Church Outreach Ministry First Response Center, Reverend Sanders has provided services to people living with or affected by HIV/AIDS since 1984. Reverend Sanders has served in many leadership positions on boards, advisory committees aimed at ending the domestic and international HIV epidemics, ensuring civil and human rights, and addressing recidivism and mass incarceration, including to motivate you towards, serving 3 American presidents, Clinton, Bush, and Obama, on committees aimed at addressing public health. Reverend Sanders was formerly coordinator of religious leaders for a more just and compassionate drug policy and the Drug Policy Alliance, and currently serves on the boards of the National Minority AIDS Council, President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, Scientific Advisory Board, HIV Vaccine Trials Network Legacy Program, and Project Return. Welcome, Reverend Ed.
Thank you very much for another opportunity to be able to share with you in this initiative. There are ways in which I feel that the way in which you've gone about doing this, it'll translate into there being a greater level of awareness. And that level of awareness is one that allows us to be able to disseminate information more effectively throughout our communities. I'm one of those persons that believes very strongly that one of the most effective ways for information dissemination in the communities that we serve and that we are most often involved with is through our faith initiatives. If you look at some of the ways in which people have done their assessments and their evaluations of places where persons who are in one way or another a part of the African American community, one of the things you discover is that church and faith communities end up being very much a place where people gather, and consequently places that represent opportunity for effective information dissemination. I'll make reference to that language, information dissemination, more than once, because it has come to be what is at the center, the heart, the core, perhaps most important dimension of the work that we have come to do in ministry at Metropolitan Interdenominational Church. But also, it's not a fact that somehow this is unique in and of itself, or indeed that there are many who perhaps have not invested time, energy, and resource in the same arenas where we find ourselves working. One of the things that we have discovered is that people are very often responsive to the ways in which clergy leadership comes to bring insight and awareness regarding many of the issues that we categorize in terms of health and health needs. I've been one of the persons who has had the opportunity to discover how it is that as we effectively go about the business of sharing awareness and knowledge regarding the diseases that are most disproportionately impacted in reflected in our communities, one of the things that we have come to know in no uncertain terms is that there's a way in which there is a level of belief, there is a level of trust, there's a level of attention that's paid to the ways in which persons who serve as leaders in the faith community are heard and responded to, and very often end up being vessels for information dissemination in a way that will not be the case in many other arenas. One of the things I find especially interesting in this regard, as you consider the work that's being done right now, that's being initiated and being advanced by the Links Incorporated, is that you could go to the various chapters of Links Incorporated, not just in Nashville, Tennessee, but throughout these United States and beyond. There's a way in which what you come to realize is that most of those persons who are involved with these organizations are persons who can be found in worship on Sunday mornings and involved in activities at the level of being church members, such that their various roles that they play provide other opportunities for which words can be used as a part of making sure that people understand correctly, that there's a way in which there is insight, a way in which there is a knowledge level that in too many instances you don't find in many of the other kinds of social service organizations, although many are, I think, also a complement to the work that we do. Because if you consider that those persons who very often are sitting before you in a Sunday morning are part of the work that you're doing, then it becomes easier for you to know that when you share the kinds of details, when we can share the facts, when we can share what represents the truth, is something then that has yet another powerful vehicle for being used in a way that will allow people to be able to speak more forcefully and with a greater sense of comfort. If you look at the image that's before you right now, you will see what is referred to as what now we consider to be our very well-known representation of what is our trademark. If you look at very closely at this trademark, one of the things that you will appreciate is that it has imagery within it that allows us very quickly to be able to deal with moving beyond some of the things that end up being fragmentations of division in terms of how we experience and how we are involved in the life of the first community, of the first factors that are part of the belief systems in our various churches. So where there are many denominational affiliations, where there are many ways in which you will find people saying that they are part of this denomination, that or the other, there's a way in which if you look at the symbolism, you find how very often that symbolism ends up carrying over from congregation to congregation, from denomination to denomination, and even ends up being carried over in some instances from one faith organization to another. I say that because what we have done is try to make sure that when people look at this image, what they see is something that will be inclusive of them. In Metropolitan Church, we say that we are a community of believers, inclusive of all and alienating to none, leading the way to spiritual growth by sharing God's love with the world. It's a very basic and simple statement, but whether you look at this image and see that you will find the cross, you'll find perhaps the place where there is an image that represents the ways in which we find ourselves practicing and being involved in the ways in which the Eucharist ends up being, or the Lord's Supper, or Holy Communion ends up being a part of our statement of who we are and what we believe. That you also find out that there are ways in which there are symbolic images. Like, for instance, if you looked at everything else that's here on this particular image, you would eventually get to the fact of seeing the outstretched arms that have hands that have the evidence of the aftermath of the crucifixion. That's a part of what you see. But what you also see is a cross that's not just a cross that is limited in terms of its range of impact, because one of the things that we did as a part of this trademark is include, yes, we refer to the word metro from Metropolitan Interdenominational Church, but we very intentionally took the O and made the longitudinal and latitudinal lines within it, which allowed us to be able to have the image of that which is global over against that which is sometimes seen very narrowly in terms of communities that do not transcend the ways in which we cross the oceans and the ways in which we move to the various places in this world where we are a part of communities of faith that go beyond the ways in which they're sometimes limited. The last thing I would want to say in terms of how important faith is that faith is always helping us, encouraging us, pushing us, expanding the ways, and we're able to see the range of the possibility of impact. It was only a few years back after we've had this symbolic image for over 20 years that we began to see also the fact that a part of the image is representative of outstretched hands. So we always talk about what faith does to help us stretch our capacity to be able to see, stretch our capacity to be able to understand, stretch our ability to be able to welcome, stretch our ability to be able to love and to care for others, stretch our ability to be able to take what ends up being sometimes limited and ordinary and allow us to be able to see that which can be the extraordinary. So for us, we feel it important to understand all of the information that's being shared with us as relates to the way in which the impact of kidney disease, chronic kidney disease manifests itself, but it allows us to be able to see in a way that takes us beyond the barriers and the stumbling blocks that too often get in the way of all that can be shared through us to others in ways that allow the truths that are being shared and the facts that are being imparted to us in sessions like the one we're involved in tonight, are ways in which there are awarenesses that can go beyond the ordinary, reach the extraordinary, and allow us to do that which is a part of how faith was defined for us a little bit earlier in this particular presentation this evening. The faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. It's important for us to know that we talk about the good news in our faith communities, and the good news brings with it words like healing and transformation and change. When we talk about the good news, it's the ways in which we're more likely to be able to get beyond the stuff that gets in the way from keeping us from being able to see possibility where others have not been able to see it. We thank God for the awareness that human beings have never discovered anything without looking at those things that have been God created. Human beings have never created anything out of nothing. So when we hear the voices of our scientists, when we hear the voices of our researchers, when we hear the voices of those who have spent their lives developing answers to the tough questions that are before us, it's good to know that there are points of intersection between those two things that help us to know that what we hear on Sunday morning has value in terms of what we hear Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and again Monday throughout the week, and helps us to be able to have hope in the midst of what sometimes ends up looking like hopelessness, allows us to be able to see possibilities that otherwise we might miss. So it's important for us to make sure that line of intersection between faith and science, between faith and the kinds of knowledge that we have regarding disease, we find ourselves knowing that it makes a difference, because we do know that those who have spiritual grounding and those who have faith are more likely to be able to overcome that which might be looming large in their lives in ways that has been negatively impacted over against those things that are positively impacting. I thank you for this opportunity and for the opportunity to continue to try to point to the ways in which there is the interaction and the connection between faith and the ways in which science is doing the work that is helping us to make the world a place where the possibilities of life are greater and greater than ever before. I thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of this particular initiative.
The good news is that we had the opportunity to hear from you, Reverend Sanders, and from you, Deacon Harry, and sharing your words with us. Thank you both for spending the time, taking the time, and sharing the good word with us. We now have just a few minutes for our guests to answer maybe one or two of your questions. Please know that any question that we do not answer tonight, we will answer in response, probably within the next week or two, using the email addresses associated with your registration. Never fear, our Salt Wagon doctors-to-be will have your back, and they will be answering the questions for us. Oops. Let's see, do we have our first question?
Yes, we do. Can you hear me? Okay.
I can now.
Some of these questions may have been answered already in the chat or in the Q&A. Let's see. Are kidney stones common with chronic smokers?
No, kidney stones are not common with chronic smokers.
Okay.
We do not see that.
If I have chronic kidney disease, how long would I have to live?
I did answer that in the chat, but it depends on the stage in which you're diagnosed with chronic kidney disease and your lifestyle and the cause of your chronic kidney disease. So I've had patients to live as long as 25 years. Then I've had patients to die as early as a year. So it just depends on the stage you're diagnosed and how you take care of yourself during the time of your illness.
Right. Are scientists working on a cure for kidney disease? If so, how long may it take?
Scientists are not necessarily working on a cure for chronic kidney disease, but they're working on early detection as we're doing now. They're working on trying to prevent progression. They're working on smaller kidneys for dialysis, where you can maybe hook it to your leg and dialyze. And they're working on ways to improve the longevity of a kidney transplant.
Wow. Oh, how do you strengthen your kidneys?
Well, what you can do is that you can eat a healthy diet, which we've already talked about.
Right.
You cannot drink the sugary drinks. You can control your blood pressure if you have high blood pressure. If you have diabetes, certainly control that. And get a checkup every year to see if you have developed any evidence of kidney disease.
What great information that we are hearing. If you didn't get your question answered, as mentioned, we're going to answer them because they're still coming. And I know LB still got a list of questions there, but we will make sure that we get the answers for you and we get those sent out. So please keep putting your questions in the chat if you didn't get a chance to do it already. So now it's your turn. We want to know if this webinar series inspired you to make a kidney health goal. And we want to know, what health goal did you select for yourself? And we have 2 polls for you that we're going to set forth for you to answer. So please answer the question on the screen by clicking on your response. Those maybes were going to make you go back and listen to the webinar again. Wonderful. We're seeing a large proportion, 93%, saying that it is definitely has been inspired to make some differences with kidney. Excellent. And we see that almost half of the folk here are going to arrange to have their kidneys screened. Wonderful. So that one person that's unsure, reach out and let us know your hesitation so that we can help you move from unsure to definitely. All right. I'm going to close the poll. Let's see. Did we get to that? All right. So takeaways and pearls of wisdom. We've talked a little bit about some of these, but I want to make sure I also have a chance to tell you a little bit about the Salt Wagon Clinic. If you are in need of healthcare, if you are underinsured, if you are uninsured, the Salt Wagon Clinic, which is a student-run clinic with physician oversight, that meets at Meharry Medical College in Nashville General Hospital side on Thursday evenings from 5:30 to 8:30, available for you. The clinic was started by students with the desire to give back to the community and be able to offer screenings, blood pressure screening, glucose and kidney screenings, education, blood tests if you might need it, medications if you're not able to afford your prescriptions, dental health, and even some mental health services. If you have been screened, if you need to be screened, if you're one of those over 40% that wanted to be screened, then please make sure that you're able to come to the Salt Wagon Clinic, again, at Nashville General Hospital. The phone number is on the screen, 615-378-7585. You can make an appointment. Walk-ins are also accepted. However, with the walk-ins, those who have an appointment, of course, will be seen first. Just seeing some more poll differences. And again, just remind you that if you do need to be screened on Saturday, March 25th from 10 to 12 at St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church, we will be doing screenings. But we do screenings and we try to make it fun. We have education, we have gifts and giveaway, there's food, and there's a camaraderie of realizing that you are doing something for your health. So now in our remaining moments, I want to take the time to tell you about our giveaways. Our survey email will be sent to the emails used for registration. And if you joined, but you didn't have a chance to register, we will put the registration link in the chat. Only one care card per person or email will be available. But in addition, we have a link to the National Kidney Foundation online screening tool, which will be included in the survey. And this tool, you answer a few questions and it gives you a personalized risk for kidney. And we have our Black K.A.R.E recipe book, which we mentioned, that we will offer to the first 10 people from the community who joined each webinar. We also offer books for the first 10 people who entered a question in the Q&A for each webinar. If you qualify, you'll receive an email from us with more details. And lastly, we have a few Kroger gift cards that we will give away. Each card dollars can certainly be used for healthy food items. You have to get healthy food with these that you know will help you with your kidney health. In order to be eligible for the gift card, you should have one, registered for the webinar. And again, if you registered, the registration link should be in the chat. Two, completed the survey using the link we have in the chat. And the survey will also be in the email that you should receive soon. And third, agree to complete the online CKD or chronic kidney disease screen through the National Kidney Foundation. And the link for the National Kidney Foundation website will be in the survey. It takes 3 minutes to answer. It's just a few general questions. And they'll email you your own personalized risk assessment to see for you, along with information about chronic kidney disease. And this is a valuable resource that we want everyone to take advantage of so that you know your kidney status. If you attended 2 webinars, you'll be eligible for a $30 gift card. Those who attended 3 webinars will be eligible for a $50 gift card giveaway. And I think, as we mentioned, everybody should be able to use that now. We do only have a few of the gift cards, but we will be giving them out. And we have your email addresses, and they'll be done randomly based on attendance, completion of registration, and completion of the survey. In order to close us out, I'm going to pass it back to Sharon.
That'll be me, Dr. Dewey. Just want to thank everybody who's on the call and who's participated in the webinars. A very special thank you and appreciation to all of our speakers who've been joining from the webinar 1, 2, and 3. So thank you to Dr. Ebele Ume Ukeje, myself, okay, as well as Dr. Faulkner, a good colleague over at Meharry, LB Gaiters from St. Vincent de Paul, Reverend Sanders from Metropolitan Interdenominational Church, and Deacon Harry from St. Vincent de Paul. And let's not forget those special guests that include our nutritionist, Fran Blackman, and special thanks to Brandon Lewis and Kimberly Collier as our exercise experts. Crystal will place the links to their webpage in the chat if you would like to connect with them. Next slide. Next slide. Just a wonderful, wonderful thank you and deep appreciation to Dr. Etoy Garrison from the Nashville, Tennessee chapter of the Links Incorporated. She is our head for the HHS facet, and we thank her and all the members of the team that are listed here who are part of the Nashville, Tennessee Black K.A.R.E Committee who facilitated this event. We are also extremely grateful for the Music City President Chapter Link Kenya Nubi and the Parthenon Chapter President Laura Mims for lending their time and support. And of course, we cannot forget our own Nashville Chapter Tennessee President Link Madam Sharon Roberson, and all of this partnership that we are developing, I hope will continue and make this a future event that continues this collaborative effort through all of these chapters. We look forward to future success of in-person sessions. Make sure you come and join our health fair. We'll look for future wellness and kidney screening events. Next slide. And you can use the QR codes on the screen in order to access the Black K.A.R.E Initiative and chronic kidney disease web pages to learn more. They have very wonderful informational sessions and things that you can download materials to use at home as well. On behalf of the Webinar Planning Committee, please have a wonderful and blessed evening.